let me focus just briefly on your early work and on the change. And I'm looking for the right word here. I don't think mellowed is the right word, but your work matured steadily over the years. And this is not a parallel, but in my mind, I'm thinking of a similar situation happened with Elvis Costello. He got very mature. He got very proficient. He really got, maybe for a lot of his fans, overly intellectual, and he lost a lot of them. When you talk about how Bach is impacting your work, I wonder what that does to people who still think Horses is their favorite album ever,
well,
and that probably just sends chills through them to hear that.
No, well, I would be very deluding myself if anyone thought that I was saying that Bach impacted my musical or performance contribution. It more impacts the way that I'm thinking or meditating. I can't say that one would read that into my work. I can't comment on Elvis Costello because I never listened to him. But for myself, I'm evolving as a human being. But I always think it's funny when people say, use the term mellowed, or, maturing is probably a good idea. But in performance, like on my last tour, I have never felt stronger and had more contained rage within a performance than ever in my life. And it comes from, my reaction to our world situation. A lot of the work that I do is in reaction to what's happening in the world, what I'm channeling from the world, what I'm channeling from the people. And I don't think anybody has to worry about me over intellectualizing anything. I just do the work that I do. I'm not a person that really, I'm not a calculating person. Right. I just do what I do. I like to study. When I did Horses, a lot of it reflected my sorrow. A lot of Horses reflected both my readings of William Burroughs and my sorrow of Jimi Hendrix and Jim Morrison dying. That's all in Horses. In Radio Ethiopia, a lot of it has to do with, my exploring the sonic aspects of rock and roll, the electric guitar, and, my battle with language. Each record, has a lot to do with both what I'm studying, or exploring spiritually or globally. And, in that way, I haven't really changed. I still have the same process. It just depends when I'm studying.
Well, it stands to reason that over any period of time, an artist is going to, because there's nothing worse than an artist that does the same thing for 10 years. There's nothing more boring than that.
Well,
for the listener, speaking as a listener, there's nothing worse than someone that has nothing new to learn.
Well, I don't have any desire to. First of all, I would probably die if I wasn't able to keep learning, because that's one of the great joys of life. Yeah. is study and evolution. And but I don't really have any desire to repeat myself, because the world is so materialistic. There's so much crap out there. There's such a glut. And if I don't feel like I can contribute anything, I won't. Hopefully, I would never just pile more mundanity into the world.
About words, because when I think about rock songwriters that have a way with words, I think it's fascinating to think about the way in which words and music interact, and how, in many cases, a great song works well on paper without music. Can you talk about that for a minute? How that works for you?
Well, writing lyrics has always been, I think of anything I do, it's the hardest thing. It doesn't come natural to me. Somebody like Smokey Robinson, who's a real master, is a real master of lyric writing. Somebody like Bob Dylan, writing lyrics has always been a great struggle. And sometimes it'll take me, a year of contemplation before I'll write the lyrics to a song, or one song will move from record to record because I haven't completed the lyrics. And I'm not much one. I do write in my notebook all the time, but the way I most like writing lyrics is improvising with my band. I like if we're practicing and a band member comes up with a riff or we're jamming, to improvise with the band, usually about something I'm thinking about. It could be something I read in the Bible, something I'm angry about. It could be the environment. And I'll just start riffing with the band. And that's always been my most successful way of writing lyrics. I would think probably some of the best lyrics I've written are live on stage, because we improvise a lot on stage, certain types of songs, and they go with the air. But that's basically how I like to write. I never really wanted to publish my song lyrics because I wasn't sure they were good enough that they stood, by themselves. But I got so much requests from people, and and there were so many like pirated versions that were all wrong. I finally did put them together and put them out. And actually, when I put them out as a body of work, I found myself feeling that they seemed all right. I felt somewhat proud of them. I was worried about that, but they seemed to stand.
Do you write much poetry that doesn't end up in a song? Do you write poetry just for the sake of writing it?
Yeah, I write poetry all the time. I haven't published any poetry in some years just because writing poetry is it's such a heightened thing and takes so much concentration. And in putting out like a book of poetry or something, I have to really spend like a year not doing anything else. And but I write all of the time.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it's just the opposite of what you were talking about, the improvisational style that works for you, which is very seat of the pants. The muse kicks it out of my mouth and I say it, as opposed to poetry, which is so deliberate and so painstaking. Each syllable's got to be in the right place.
Well, I labor over my poetry. I mean, it comes out really fast sometimes, but I labor over it in the end. And I guess I tend to be real self-critical. But I write in all different manners. It's just, like I said, it's usually my best lyrics seem to happen, in context with the band.